Hello everyone. Today is January 24th, 2026, and I simply wanted to make an update video, or another update video, since I've been fired from my job. For those you don't know, just a quick update on January 14th of this year. I got terminated from my job, and I've just been attempting to deal with that ever since. So I did apply for unemployment, and it says still pending. They said that unemployment said that they're still investigating. They don't know whether I'm going to get unemployment yet. So it's not even that I'm waiting for money. I'm waiting for approval or denial. So some of my friends that I know, they're saying, that I will get it. Some people are saying that I won't get it. Who knows? So, still waiting on that. The other thing I'm waiting on, I did file my taxes. I got that all done as quickly as I could. But that's another waiting game. That is just a waiting game. It's not an approval or whatever. I did my taxes. But here in the United States, the IRS doesn't start filing accepting returns until the 26th or something like that. So even though, I did my part and I filed, the IRS I don't think they start basically processing on their end until the 26th. And then even after that, it takes several weeks to get your refund, whenever they get around to that. So there's things in the process. I obviously shaved since the last time I made a talking video. Some of you may have seen my video where I was shaving my face. Some of you even mentioned that you want me to shave my head now. That'll probably come in another video. Every so often I shave my head and shave my face. That's one way actually that I do save money. I cut my hair myself. I have a pair of clippers, as you guys seen many times, and so I just whip out the clippers, I shave my face and shave my head, and that obviously saves a lot of money over the course of a year because I never get a haircut from an actual place. So those are pretty much the main updates, and we're just trying to survive. The place that we're staying at, we could either pay $300 a week, or if we have the money, it's $1,200 a month. And so, right now we have enough money to pay for the meantime for our rent. Again, it's either $300 a week, or if we have the full $1,200, we could pay $1,200 for a month, which is not terrible. And then, other little bills that we have, like for those of you who know, who watch my videos, my son's autistic. He still doesn't use the bath. He doesn't use the bathroom on his own, and so we have to buy him diapers. That's another bill, and obviously food. Stuff that we need. So it's just like I said, it kind of sucks for the waiting game. See if we get approved, or if I get approved for unemployment, waiting for my taxes, because things need to be paid. Basically, is what I'm saying. In that, as always, I just mention it. As always, if anyone wants to help. Help support me, my family, help us pay rent or buy the things we need. There's a PayPal link on my channel page. Everything is appreciated, or anything is appreciated. That's the update. I'm trying to be consistent with these videos. That's one thing with these videos. My family and I, me, my girlfriend and my son, we've been through a lot these past several years, basically since 2020, in and out of homelessness, just trying to make it. I was working at my past job for a little less than 2.5 years, and just trying to survive. When I was working 12-hour shifts, sometimes 60-hour weeks, working holidays. That's kind of the how do you say? That's kind of the rub, or that's kind of the an irony, I guess you can say. For that company that I was just working at, I volunteered for the holiday, so I kind of did them a favor. They had holiday signups, and I even worked the holiday. And like I said, sometimes I'd work 5 or 6 days in the course of a week, 12-hour shifts, and then they go and fire me for some nonsense. So, it just goes to show you, and that's why. I hate to belabor this issue, but that's why, in general, it's not just me. It's really not just me. A lot of people, especially young people, they're they're realizing these companies, they don't care about you. They really don't care about you. They use you. They're like, oh, come in on your days off or stay extra and work holidays and do all this stuff. And you do it. You try to be a good employee and you try to do it. Then they end up, firing you for some nonsense or not giving you your raises and whatever. Again, I hate to belabor the issue. I really don't want to do that. But it's really a thing. It's not just me. These large corporations, they don't care. They say they care. They say, oh, you have to have work life and home life balance, and they talk about safety, and then you bring up safety stuff. They don't care about that. So, I'm not gonna belabor the issue too much, but it's just the point. It's just what it is. Whatever. I mean, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do, right? So anyhow, that's the situation. Still no luck on finding a job. Everything else is just a waiting game. And that's it. So, yeah. I'm just going to continue making these videos, continue to update you guys on what's going on. That's what I was going to say. I kind of got off track. So, over the past few years, like I said, my family, we've been in out of homelessness or, working this job or that job or whatever, just trying to get money. We were begging on the streets and all kinds of stuff. And where was I going with that? I think I was just going to say that, we've come to the point where it's really about just survival. It's like, our whole perspective on life is really changed. Yeah, your perspective on life really changes when you don't have a home, and especially when it's a long period of time. It's just, I don't know how to explain it, but even being at work, I'm gonna tell you this. You guys want to know a secret that's not really a secret. So some of the people at my work knew of my situation. They know where I live. They know that my family and I were homeless for a couple of years or whatever. There's, a handful of people who knew all that stuff. But I would say the vast majority of people at my job didn't know that. Didn't know our situation. Didn't know, about, homelessness and, where we're living. And, a lot of people don't know that I have an autistic son at my work. And, I just don't, in general, I just don't bring up that stuff. There's a certain select group of my close friends at my past job who I share that information with, but a lot of people didn't know. And so I never said anything, but honestly, since I'm talking about this, and since I got fired and kind of my business is out there, over the past couple years working there, I will tell you one of the hard things was like when holidays and stuff come about and people are like, oh, what are you going to do for, holidays, for Christmas, for Thanksgiving, for this and that. And, people not knowing my family's situation, that, we don't have a real home, that we live in this, like, I don't even want to call it a hotel, but it's like it's a hotel, but it's like kind of a long stay hotel, and that's why it's cheaper. But so basically we don't have a real home, and so we don't have the some of the amenities that a real home has. And, as I told you guys before, it's not our actual stuff in there. When you live in a hotel, it's not your bed, it's not your TV, it's not your microwave, it's not your refrigerator, this and that. And so basically my point is holidays never felt like holidays. Birthdays never felt like birthdays. And that's what I'm saying. Your perspective changes when you're homeless, like on the street, or when you don't have a real home, when you're couch surfing, as they call it. Maybe, you don't have a home and you're just sleeping on your friend's couch at their house or something like that. Your perspective changes on everything, things start to lose meaning again about holidays and birthdays and, the clothes you wear, about shaving or not. Some people at my work probably wondering, why would Matt go so long without shaving? It's like, I don't even have a real home. And I'm working 12-hour shifts, like I said, sometimes 4, 5, 6, 12-hour shifts in a row. You know, it's just, you kind of stop caring. And I'm not trying to make excuses or whatever. I'm just telling you the reality. This is how, I'm just sharing my thoughts. That's what these videos are about. I'm not trying to, you know, I'm not, you know, my intent is never to get people to feel bad for me. My intent, I don't, you know, it's not like I want people to come in the comments and be like, oh, Matt, I'm so sorry you've been through that. That's not what I want. I'm just, the point of these videos is just to share my thoughts and what's going on and, you know, whatever. I mean, if you do feel bad, I mean, I appreciate it. I appreciate when people feel bad and say, hey, Matt, I'm sorry you got fired. I'm sorry, you know, this is happening. Whatever it is, I appreciate it. But that's not my intent. That's not my intent. I'm just sharing. That's the point of these videos. I share my thoughts, share my ideas. I share my life. And probably up until recently, a lot of people at my work didn't even know that I had a YouTube channel. That was a quote-unquote secret. You know, I mean, I told people about it, but I just didn't, again, I've never been much about sharing my business, you know, to the masses. You know, you know, to the people who watch my videos, you know more things, obviously. But, you know, the people that I worked with for over 2 years, like I said, they, you know, most of them didn't know my situation. Again, most of them didn't know that I had an autistic child, or that we lived in a hotel, or that we were homeless previously for years. We were begging on the streets, and, you know, again, with the exception of, you know, a close subset of my friends. But anyways, now I'm rambling. The video's been going on for 11.5 minutes now. That's what's going on. So I'll say it one more time before I go. Again, if anyone would like to donate to help me, my family, pay rent, or, you know, with any of the bills we have, there's a PayPal link in my channel page. Everything is appreciated. That's it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next video.